Okay, let's break it down. Let's take these swings and we're going to break it down frame by frame. Doing this will give us the ability to look at the swing frame by frame and analyze what can be done to help improve the player's swing. If we look at the beginning of this swing, he's already rotated his hips and shoulders and is not going to be able to use them at the end of his swing. Notice the player's hands have not left his shoulder at this point in his swing. Now that his hips and shoulders are used, he's going to have to use his hands and extend his arms to try to make power for the ball. Notice his arms are extended at contact and has now eliminated any ability to generate power. In this frame, you'll notice the barrel of the bat is rotated and elevated, which causes him to hit the top of the ball. This is because he's had to rotate his wrists because his arms are extended. If you notice in this clip, the barrel's gone way up at this point, and that's due to the fact that he threw his hands way out in front and is not able to push through with palm up. So the critical parts of this swing is he leaves his hands back, over-rotates his hips way too early, and then is forced to punch out in front, which then again creates hitting the top of the ball. If we look at this clip of this swing on this player, his hands have started to punch and move. This is good. At this point, we've noticed that he's over-rotated his hips and shoulders and now is relying on his hands to get out in front to hit the ball. Notice that the barrel of the bat has dropped at this point in his swing. Now the player will have to rely on his hips and shoulders to try to correct this by over-rotating them way past the point of where they should be at contact. This prevents the player from pushing palm out and generating power at the same time. So he's not able to increase his bat speed by breaking his wrists and is left with his hands tied in too tight to be able to generate the power. The punch and strike drill again would fix this player's problem. In this clip, his hands have gone way too far out in front and his hips are opened up completely to the pitcher at this point. This makes the player have to extend his arms to try to make contact with the ball to generate any power at all. This player has great head control and his head is down even after contact. The punch and strike drill would solve most of the problems in this swing. If this player uses his hands to punch and strike and his hips and shoulders to finish his swing, he'll generate a lot of power. As we look at this swing, notice his hands and how they've dropped. This prevents the player from being able to extend his hands into the ball. Now the player must rely on his hips and his shoulders to try to get his hands out in front so that he can hit the ball. Now that his shoulders and hips are used, the player is forced to try to use his arms and his hands to get out and make contact with the ball. Now hand-tied, he's unable to break his wrists. So this has prevented the player from generating any type of power in the end of his swing. Doing the punch and strike drill and getting this player to strike ball at front toe would solve his problems. The player needs to start his swing by moving his hands forward first, then using his hips and shoulders to finish his swing to generate power. In this clip, we notice how the player's feet are very wide in his stance. The player should always look comfortable and feel relaxed at the plate. In this clip, I noticed that the player's hands have not left his shoulders, and he's using his shoulders to push the bat through. This has caused his hips and shoulders to try to push his hands through. This also causes his shoulder to drop. Now that he's used his hips and shoulders to push his hands through, he's left with using his arms to extend at the contact point. Notice as the bat makes contact, the player's arms are straightened and has nothing left to push palm through. The player used his hips and shoulders at the beginning of his swing to push his hands through. And now, at the end of his swing, when he makes contact, he's unable to use them to generate more power. And again, notice the great head control, even down after contact, which allows this player to make contact consistently. The punch and strike drill would solve a lot of these problems. If the player used his hands to punch the ball, he would have hips and shoulders left at the end of his swing to finish it and generate power. If we notice in this clip, the player's hands move forward and is not relying on his shoulders or hips to push his hands through. As the player prepares to strike the ball, his hips and shoulders are rotating as the contact is made with the ball. As contact is made, the player uses his arms, his hips, and shoulders to finish the swing. The player has now generated power by using his arms, his hips, his shoulders to extend through the ball. Notice how the player pushes the bat and palm up through the ball and the barrel stays level, and doesn't rise after contact. What I have talked about is very common in most swings and can be easily resolved by the punch and strike drill. Quality repetitions improve batting averages. Quantity of repetitions is directly related to the quality of them.